5 years ago, this month, March, is the 5-year COVID anniversary. 5 years ago, we started with 40 clients and got them approved for the COVID EIDL. Take it away.
As a way of commemorating the COVID anniversary, we're going to present to you a series of videos. Some of them will talk about basics about the EIDL program that you need to know as a borrower who owes that debt, and some of them will be responses to comments we get here on YouTube. Cut. If your business got a COVID-19 EIDL during the pandemic, and EIDL meaning Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and you have questions, we're here to answer those questions. This video is for you. And today I'm going to answer a comment on one of our YouTube videos about the COVID EIDL program and give you information that I hope you will find useful as you repay these loans, which have a 30-year term. You may have to interact with the SBA on occasion, especially because you signed a loan agreement. It's called the LAA, which means Loan Authorization and Agreement. And that loan agreement not only laid out the terms of the loan, name of the borrower, the address of the borrower, the amount of the loan, the interest rate, the term of the loan, 30 years. The fact that there's no prepayment penalty. Not only that, but there are a lot of restrictions and requirements and responsibilities baked into that loan agreement that you signed. And we know from our own experience with small business owners, many people never read the loan agreement. So we'd encourage you, first of all, to go and read the loan agreement. And if you don't have a copy, send an email to cesc@sba.gov and request a copy of the loan agreement. They'll usually send it to you within 48 hours. Don't forget to include your SBA loan number in the subject line. Also, the loan agreement, not only does it lay out all the restrictions, responsibilities, and requirements, but it lays out criminal and civil penalties in the event that you do not adhere to the very strict terms of the loan agreement. That means if you're changing your business address, if you want to sell assets, if you want to bring in another business partner, if you want to sell part of the business to an investor, if you want to get a loan from another bank, you've got to interact with the SBA. We created the EIDL Resource Hub to assist you with that. You can click on the link in the description to learn more about that. Before I answer the question, if you find this video helpful, please consider liking the video. Please consider subscribing to our channel. You know, we discovered that more than 70% of the folks who watch our videos are not subscribers. Can you believe that? Only 3 out of 10. So can you become one of those 3 out of 10 and maybe move it up to 4 out of 10 or 7 out of 10? If you find any information useful here on this video or in our playlist of other instructional videos here on our channel about the SBA EIDL program, would you consider sharing the video with someone else you know in the business world who has a COVID EIDL, who maybe, like this person, is in a desperate position and needs the kind of advice that we share on the channel? Or share the video with your attorney or your CPA, because you cannot believe how many attorneys and CPAs have no idea how this program works and what the responsibilities are under the program. And they give small business owners like you often bad, incorrect advice. Okay, let's go to our comment. And this is from ℬ𝒜𝒞𝒦𝒢ℛ𝒪𝒰𝒩. And ℬ𝒑og says, I lost my business and have an EIDL loan for $15,000. It's on auto pay. Never had an issue with them setting that up or doing single payments. Good for you, Zook. That is definitely the exception to the rule. Unfortunately, I treat it as a loan till I pass away. I think there should be a way out of these EIDLs with some kind of verification/terms. Oh well. It sounds to me like Zook might be saying, and maybe making a good case, why these loans should be forgiven, meaning the debt completely eradicated. But as we have said here on our channel, time and time again, in my professional opinion, not only as an expert with the EIDL program for the last 5 years, but also as a retired mortgage banking loan officer, where I worked on government lending programs for 30 years, it is my opinion these loans will never be forgiven. And then with the new legislation proposed, I think January or February, by Senator Ernst, there is no appetite, there is no temperature or temperament in Congress or the Senate to give forgiveness or relief to any of you. In fact, Senator Ernst's legislation which we discussed at length in our video, It's Worse Than We Thought, which you can find here by clicking on the link. In that video, I discuss just how bad this legislation is for all of you COVID EIDL borrowers, because essentially two elements of that. Number one, she wants the SBA to be even more nasty with enforcing collections on these loans and demanding payment of every penny. But also, she thinks everything in the program is filled with fraud, that all of you have committed or are committing fraud on the program. And Kelly Loeffler, in her memo when she was confirmed by the Senate to become the new administrator of the Small Business Administration, her memo to the staff of SBA is filled with the word fraud, 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 fraud. So the landscape at the SBA internally just got much more difficult for you to navigate when, like Zook, you may have run into an issue in the future with repayment. I'm not saying that we disagree with the idea of forgiveness, but professionally speaking, my expert opinion is it will never happen. A lot of folks say to us, oh, but student loans. What you're forgetting is with student loans, the Biden administration proposed removing the profit because many of those student loans, the folks who borrowed the money had repaid the loan 3 times over. Can you imagine borrowing money from someone and having to pay the loan back 3 times? That's crazy. But because of rules created by Congress, where a lot of the student loan program is kind of privatized, this kind of nightmare story was going on with people. And what President Biden proposed to do was to remove profit. These loans had already been paid back. The other aspect was for him to offer some relief in terms of temporary relief in terms of lowering payments for people while they built their new lives after graduating college, which sounds a lot like the SBA's hardship accommodation program, which allows you COVID EIDL borrowers to lower your payments in 6-month increments for a total of 2.5 years. Also, we get people telling us, but Wall Street was bailed out after the global meltdown of 2008. Yes, Wall Street was bailed out, but what you fail to recognize is the fact that Wall Street repaid the United States government with interest. If Wall Street doesn't get forgiven, I don't see how you would be. Going back to Zook, some comments I've got for you here, Zook. Number one, Linda Ray and I are both very sorry to hear that you have lost your business. Number two, you have an EIDL loan for $15,000. So you have no personal guarantee on the loan. There are no assets. For loans less than $25,000, the SBA did not collateralize any of the business assets. Now, you don't indicate here, number three, it's unknown if your business was formed, Zook Dog, as a formal business entity, such as an LLC or a corporation of some type. So I can't understand if there is corporate shielding that protects you personally from defaulting on this debt. That having been said, I don't see why you are paying a debt on a business that has closed, that has failed, that you no longer are generating revenue for. We have found several attorneys here on YouTube who indicate in their videos that the EIDL program does allow for that debt to be included in a bankruptcy proceeding. Please confirm this with a bankruptcy attorney because I'm not an attorney and this is not legal advice. We have to say that because it's a felony to give legal advice when you're not an attorney in most states, if not all states. That having been said, Zook Dog, I recommend you have a conversation with an attorney about filing bankruptcy to get rid of this debt. To answer your final statement, I think there should be a way out of these EIDLs. That, Zook Dog, is the way out. But what happens if you file bankruptcy on a COVID EIDL, economic injury disaster loan? What happens if you file bankruptcy and that loan is discharged in the bankruptcy? Well, if the loan is $200,000 or less, there is no personal guarantee aspect. So you would not have to undertake the secondary legal consideration that you might have to consider a personal bankruptcy. That would be for loans of $200,001 or greater, because those loans all have a personal guarantee component. And again, please confirm with an attorney if that would be a necessary strategy. I spoke to a client recently who is filing bankruptcy on multiple businesses that he owns. He's in the restaurant trade. He is doing a bankruptcy workout on the COVID loans and other debts for the businesses. And because most of the loans have a personal guarantee, his attorney said, we don't need to file a personal bankruptcy. They're not going to come after you. I'm not sure how the attorney has a crystal ball to understand that or not, but we do know that essentially the SBA, there's a lot of bark, but there's no bite. We're not hearing any anecdotal data, stories, indications that the SBA is going out there and knocking on factory doors and seizing forklifts and product and equipment or computers and desks and books from offices. We're not hearing that. That doesn't mean that they can't do it. I mean, it's the federal government, and the federal government has a long memory. And to that point, ℬ𝒜𝒞𝒦𝒢ℛ𝒪𝒰𝒩𝒟𝒮, were you to file a bankruptcy on the loan, if your business was formed as a corporate entity and if it was filed as a business bankruptcy, or if you were a sole proprietor or an independent contractor and you got this $15,000 loan as a natural person, not a corporate entity, either way, if you file bankruptcy, meaning you default on repayment of the loan, because the United States government has a long memory, it means that you could potentially be put onto what's called a do not pay list, or you would be discovered in what's called the Credit Alert Interactive Verification Retrieval System, which is a system used, at least when I was in the mortgage business, we used it if somebody was applying for a Federal Housing Administration federal mortgage to verify that people involved in the transaction were not prohibited from participating in the program due to mostly previous criminal actions, but also potentially having defaulted on previous federal debts. So there are two aspects of the federal government tracking you if you default on the COVID EIDL. Again, Linda Ray and I are truly sorry to hear, ℬ𝒜𝒑, that your business has been lost. We wish you better success today and in the future. And for those of you folks who found this video helpful, would you consider liking the video and subscribing? Because, as I said earlier, more than 70% of the folks who watch our videos are not subscribers. And consider sharing the video with somebody like ℬ𝒜𝒑 who needs to hear this information that can help them make important and relevant decisions about how to proceed with their business if they got a COVID EIDL. And finally, if you are going to interact with the SBA at all, please consider purchasing our EIDL Resource Hub, where you get my expert guidance and advice, including templates and forms and expert instructions on how to interact with the SBA to improve your chances of success, to remove as much drama as possible from an already complicated process, because SBA makes everything complicated, and how to help you be better than the SBA.